Everyone, this is our special meeting agenda for the FY24 budgets, BOCC departments. It's May 2nd, 2023. The time is 9:01 a.m. and we have a couple sessions throughout the day with breaks for lunch and meetings. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda? Don't know of any. So we'll go ahead and get down with our budget review, and we've got Reprographics and our manager, Dave Reed.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Reed for the record. I have just basically keep everything, just moving money around, but I have three things I need to touch bases with. I'll elaborate a little bit for Commissioner Matari so he has a little more information. I have two budgets I work with, operations and bulk budget. I'll start with my bulk budget. The bulk budget's set up to, I buy copy paper, laminate, combines, tabs, things like that are turned around, and I buy it at cost, so I buy it in bulk so it gets a better pricing for the county. And then whatever the departments need, they purchase it through me, and there's a billing process where it's billed back through to the departments. So it's kind of, I'm buying it and they're just paying it back. That being said, my paper line, which is strictly for the copy paper, I'm looking to increase that by 12%, which is $1,800. Copy paper is still going up. I bought it I buy it twice a year. Last fall, it was up 15% from the year prior. I just bought it again here in the last month, and I thought it was going to be a 15%. I actually got a 9% increase. So it's still going up, and I foresee that's going to happen for a little while yet. So that is one item that I look to increase in the bulk budget. In my operations budget, through the postage line, last fiscal year I worked with Leanna, and the postage used to be coming out of Commissioner's General Funds. Working with her, the whole thrust has been to make the budget process easier for everybody. She was always calling me to find out what was spent, what she needed budget for, because I was the one spending it, tracking it, and paying the bills. So that money was moved into my budget. Through that process, it was found out that elections was using that line item to pay for their postage for when they paid for the absentee ballots to be sent out. Unlike the treasurer, when they sent out their property tax statements, or the assessor, their assessment notices, they were paying for the postage for those. So I worked with Jennifer Locke and Asa Gray and Brandy Falcon, and what we'd like to do, and it's just nothing has to be approved or anything like that. It's just I'm going to reduce my budget by $30,000 for that line item, give that money to elections, so going forward this new fiscal year, they will pay for their own postage for that absentee ballot that'll be mailed out. So mine will be reduced $30,000. You're going to see elections come before you, and their postage line is going to be increased $30,000. So we're just basically moving money from my budget to their budget. Just so that's just something to be aware of. And that'll again just streamline the budget process, so everybody's paying for their own things and not trying to get a hold of somebody to find out what's being spent. The other item is through the Postal Service, every X amount of years, they decide they're changing how they're processing things. One of the things they're going to be doing is the indicia that's put on your envelope, the red meter. They're putting more information on that. What that means is we own the postage machine the county owns postage machines, but the meter is leased through a vendor by the post office. So with them making changes, they're requiring us to get basically new meter, but you just can't get a new meter. You have to get a new machine also, because it doesn't, work. By December of 24, we have to have the new machine in place. If not, what we have is just non-functional. They won't accept it anymore. So at this point, it's being required. It's really not an option. I have included in the budget, I included the federal, what do they call it, the Federal Register, which talks about it. So I'm requesting $20,000 for this new machine. I do have 2 quotes, and they're both right around 18,000 currently, but I'm looking, it's going to be October, November, December for, I could buy that. So I went ahead and tacked on an extra 10% just to be on the safe side. We'll see how that, how that turns out. But again, that's a cost that I was hoping to take it out of this year's fiscal budget, but once my cutter went down, I took that out of this budget instead. So that's why we're going forward with this one at this current time. So other than that, like I said, I just moving just money around a little bit for here and there. I don't know if you have any questions or concerns or
Questions for Ripper?
I certainly can appreciate your challenges with the postage machines. I
Yeah.
deal with the same thing. And paper, did the same thing when you buy in bulk. You can, you watch it, the market actually moves. It fluctuates almost daily.
yes. Yeah, with copy paper, like I said, I was looking about a month or so ago, and the best I could find was 15%. But then all of a sudden, I just keep looking, and then that's why able to get down to the 9%, and you jump
Yeah.
on it as fast as you can.
Yep.
Bill, questions?
No questions.
All right. Well, guess you're off the hook.
All right.
So
That was
thanks
easy.
thanks for being first up.
All right. Thank you.
Jody, are you by chance on the line? Nope. Okay. All right.
So what do we do, sit around for 20 minutes?
No, I have my paper upstairs that tells us when everybody's coming in. So, I will,
Excuse me,
oh,
Chairman Duncan, can you hear me?
yes. Let me see.
Hi, this is Kim Riley. I know she's planning on being there. Are they maybe waiting outside?
Oh, there she is.
Walking in the door.
Okay, great. We're ready early. Okay. Thanks. I'll get mine when we have a break.
Is Kim on the line?
She is.
So do you need a copy of the
It's up to you. If you want us to follow along, yeah.
Carrie thought we were going to be here early.
Thank you.
So have HPC.
Oh, okay.
We went through this same thing, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So as directed by the board.
You'll need to hit your, thank you. Okay.
As directed by the board, we have worked with HR to revise our job descriptions for positions currently compensated by higher duty pay and temporary budget. Our requested fiscal '24 personnel changes have been forwarded to the auditor's office for calculations. If our requests are approved, we propose freezing the grant tech position. We will then reallocate those funds along with the amount remaining from the existing senior program manager position to fund our personnel request at no additional cost to the county. We just wanted to have that as our overarching for the A budget, which I know we're not talking about, it's just the B budget. So RMO's overall budget is flat from the B budget. The consultant agreement moved funds from the A budget to the B budget. So we'll just address any questions you might have.
Questions? No. Any other line items that things have been shifted around in? Any other noteworthy things?
Nothing really noteworthy. I mean, our budget is flat. We haven't increased it, the operational side, other than the consultant agreement has been moved into our budget. So that would be the increase on our B budget.
Right.
So the initial for fiscal '23 was for 9 months, and now it's for 12 months.
Okay.
And then overall, that was not, it was a net zero for A and B.
All right. And do we want to go ahead with historic preservation?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so for the Historic Preservation Commission fiscal year '24, their proposed budget is primarily focused on supporting their ongoing and planned preservation projects. Their proposed budget request is $7,800, which is approximately 3% less than last year's amended budget of $8,035. Do you want me to speak to the museum specifically, or do you?
If they're asking for a request, then yeah, we need to.
Yes,
Hear that.
so for the museum, their request is flat this year. It's included obviously in the Historic Preservation Commission budget, but it's still exactly at 20,000. And they're using these funds mainly in support of their current and continued community engagement projects, public programming, and historic collection preservation. Preserving items and photos and that kind of thing, so.
And we want to apologize because both the Historic Preservation Commission, a member was going to be here at 9:30, as well as the museum person at 9:30, so they may pop in at 9:30.
Sure.
But I suspect that we'll be done.
Okay. All right, questions?
No, I met with RMO last week, and we went through a lot of this stuff, so.
Okay. All right, had Historic Preservation, the museum asked for more last year, but then they were only approved at 20,000? Do you
Right,
remember?
that is
Okay.
correct. Yeah, their ask last year was, I think, 25,000,
Okay,
I believe. I haven't,
that's fine.
yeah. Is it
That's
on
what
their
I'm just trying to
budget?
remember.
The previous
year.
was 23.
Yeah, that's what was
Actually,
granted.
it says 20 on here, but the ask was probably different than the actual amended,
Right.
so,
Right.
Yep.
yeah, that's not on here.
All right, that's all I have. Bill, questions?
No questions.
Okay. We are just going right through these.
Okay,
Fantastic.
thanks.
Yep, thank you. All right, here's the thing back. Unless you want me to order upstairs.
IT.
Okay. So the airport doesn't know if they're gonna be there, and I asked staff to kind of get people coming in earlier. So, all right, well, I'll just run upstairs real quick and be back down. All right, we'll take this little 5-minute break and I'll be right back. We're back from a short recess, and now we're here with our Information Technology Department and our Director, James Martin. Go right ahead.
Board Commissioners,
Push your microphone there. Thank you.
Morning Commissioners. For our budget meeting, I thought I would, hit the highlights of what our budget is this year compared to last, and go through a very quick presentation, and then during the presentation, please stop if you have questions, or we can, of course, discuss it afterwards as well, with your blessing, if that's okay to proceed us in that direction. As you can see from the chart, our budget is increasing this year compared to last $43,000, which is a 1.8% increase from last year, which, considering inflation was at over 8% over the last year in the United States, it's hopefully acceptable. Where these numbers came from are the IT budget snapshot that you have in your hand from the 6 IT cost centers, which admin, sheriff's office control, the network control, PC control, GIS, and imaging. So altogether, those 6 cost centers make up our budget. And overall, that's what you see here is just a snapshot of where our increases are. So what I'll do next is go through where some of our increases are, both in B budget, and then discuss our capital requests as well. So the main increases, not the only, but the main increases for our B budget are a $15,000 increase for the executive payroll module, which you've probably heard about that. You'll hear more this afternoon at the business meeting. They'll be brought forth to seek approval for. It's a payroll and scheduling program that will certainly make things more efficient for people. Will add their own payroll in instead of, as it is now, they put it in a spreadsheet and they give it to a central person for data entry. And Carrie can talk more about it if you're interested at this point. So that's the maintenance for the executive time is $15,000, so that'll be in our budget, in the IT budget. DMV, new iPads, those are to replace existing ones. I forget how many years old they are, but they're due for replacement now.
Ever since the Kilo system was put in, they're about 6 or 7 years old now, I believe. They're starting to fail. They asked that we budget for those for them.
And then the last B budget increase of significance is our travel and training. Over the last few years with COVID, we haven't been doing any, it's all been remote. So this year, most of them are in person. And I think there's value in the ones in person, but that's for the user trainings and the user conferences and the actual trainings. That's where that $6,000 increase comes from. If we want to dive more into that, I also brought our travel and training specific line items, who's going where, and those, so we can share those as well.
Do you want to see specifics? No.
We can come back to that as well. So for the big dollar amounts, the capital requests that we have for this year for fund balance or from wherever it would come from. The first is a request to replace 850 phones throughout the county. About 75% of those phones are 8 years. The other 25% are probably about 12 to 14 years. The whole JJC building has phones that are not supported, elections building, airport, and a few other areas. The ones here at our campus, the admin campus, district court, those phones are about 8 years, and they're going to be soon out of support. Microsoft Office 365. The actual subscription cost is about $170,000 a year. Now, this is a cost we only used to bring to you once every 7 years because we'd buy it and then leave it. We'd have to buy more licenses. Microsoft has made it impossible for us to continue that way. We'll have to jump on the bandwagon with Office 365. You may have heard of that, but that's what most organizations do nowadays. So we'll have to do that. And that's $170,000. The reason it says $230,000 is because there's also a $50,000 request for consulting to help us migrate mainly our Exchange server up into the cloud and just get make sure that it's such a big implementation, we got to make sure we do it right, and that's where that other 50,000. So after this year, it'll be an ongoing $170,000 a year cost. Endpoint protection, which is our virus protection, and the on-base document image, excuse me, the on-base workflow document imaging project. We're in the final year. We'll talk a little bit more in just a second. We're in the final year of a 4-year project, but it's been so successful that it's probably going to take a few extra years. So many departments are requesting carrying our team's time for automating a lot of our current processes. So only a couple more slides, I promise, and then we can get to more of a discussion on these items. Just a quick picture of the phone, what the new phones would look like. They're Bluetooth compatible. So you can see there's no cord on the handset. They can be carried around. There's a plug-in, a USB plug, so you can charge your cell phone. Any Bluetooth compatible device can work off them. At the end of the day, it's just a phone. Microsoft Office Suite, as we discussed, it ongoing will be $170,000 the year after this year. Sorry. Consulting services the first year, and a couple of the advantages of going to Office 365 is the 66% increase in mailbox storages. Will go from 1.5 gigabyte storage, which you have now, and you probably periodically get a message saying you're out of storage space.
Daily?
And that will be increased to 100 gigabytes with Office 365. And there's also a lot of collaboration tools. You may have heard of Microsoft Teams. There are certain departments, auditors, grants management, they all want to take advantage of the Teams collaboration tools. So. And then lastly,
Sorry, James. With Teams, I think we're going to have a policy there about the instant chat function. So who initiates that policy?
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
We're planning on creating a committee to roll out Office 365. So it's a very much a organizational-wide endeavor as far as how you decide to structure it. They give you a lot of tools, a lot of buttons and knobs to push and twist to build the system to service your organization appropriately. Some of those are turning off that concerning chat function in Teams. So we want to get that committee together and actually build that policy as we roll this thing out so that we can have a standard that says, so everyone understands things like this is why we don't want to be doing chatting in Teams because public record requests, obvious reasons, things like that. So that will be the driver behind that.
And then, I had it here. Yeah, it'll come back to me. Go ahead.
Okay. And this is the last slide. It's, like I said, year 4 of the on-base project. It's been extremely successful. We've, Carrie and her team has automated processes such as the BOCC, the agenda management for your Tuesday meetings. Employee status change forms used to take me probably 20 to 30 minutes to accumulate all the information. I'm done in like 4 minutes now. I mean, it's so more efficient. Auditors currently is who she's working with, automating the expense and travel, expense and, what is that called?
Mileage and expense.
Mileage and expense form.
And the incorrect cost center.
Incorrect cost center. Next, they're going to have her completely automate the travel and training process, which is also quite cumbersome at this time. It's very complicated, but as we move on, like the assessors is next, they've already indicated some processes they would like to streamline with on-base. So it's extremely powerful tool. It's been very successful. So it will probably go on past our 4 years, but it's because it is successful. But, so I would just circle back around to any questions you have. Or, like I said, our overall budget compared to last year, there's a slight increase. Hopefully I've helped identify where those increases came from.
So on one of the sheets I saw that on-base was going to be a negative 84,000.
That,
Now, the on-base project and on the second sheet.
right. That was from, and I apologize, that was a one-off. That was from a carryover, we believe, from last year, where that 84,000 came from.
Okay.
So
the
it's actually,
122 hadn't been spent the year before, so it was a carryover.
yes.
Okay. That makes sense. If we do not go to 365 in the cloud, how much longer are we going to be able to use all the Microsoft products?
I'll let Grant answer that.
My understanding, reading the Microsoft briefs, is that our current email system is going to be the biggest driver. The on-prem, meaning we have it on site, those systems are being targeted globally really badly. We've already had a few near misses with the system, and it will go out of support, I believe, in 2025. And when that happens, they'll probably still release some security updates, but no feature updates, anything keeping it working. And so we end up being in a very awkward position as far as security goes, is kind of one of the biggest drivers here. Functionally, it'll continue to work. However, from a security standpoint, I'd be very nervous to keep the county moving in that direction.
Sure. Do we know of any other local agencies that are on-prem, or pretty much all of our
We're
counterparts
about
are?
the last one to go. I'm a member of a organization with the state that has IT leadership throughout every county, and we meet a couple times a year at IAC. And I polled them, and I'm the only one there. And the only ones who don't show usually are Ada and Canyon, and I'm sure they're on 365 as well. So it's not anything new that we're setting out on here. In fact, we're a little behind the eight ball.
Yeah, the local cities as well have already migrated.
Okay.
I wish there was another way, I really do. It's a lot of money.
Sure. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious about the voice over IP phones. They seem like pretty nice phones, and I'm just wondering, what I've come to find is that not everyone's going to use all the functionality, and that sometimes you can save a few dollars by getting more bare bone phones that people will only use those features as opposed to getting all the nice bells and whistles that not everyone's going to use. Is that something that's been looked at or could be looked at?
We've discussed that in the past. It comes to, I agree with you. First of all, there probably are areas, like we use door phones and things like that. So those phones are already been identified as not needing full-fledged office desk phones. But when you talk to electeds and department heads, they feel that each of their staff member needs a full functioning desk phone. Whether they do or not, that's how they feel about it, because we've polled them in the past. There is some savings to go to be achieved by buying a lesser phone with less functionality, but
Not a lot though, when you add the licensing and the.
yeah, it's not a ton. We could do some more. Oh, go ahead.
Part of the reality too is that phone looks pretty flashy, but it's not a high-end phone. Those standards, the Bluetooth, the LED screen, that's all just becoming standard run-of-the-mill for phones these days. So there's definitely higher grade phones that we're not looking at, but
Yeah, this isn't their top, Mytel's top of the line phone.
Yeah, because it comes in at around, what, $450 a phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time you add in licensing, programming, all that kind of stuff.
So you have to get a license and the phone as well? A license for the user, a SIP user?
Yeah, well, so that it can be ran on the system correct.
Yeah.
That's their new business model, unfortunately. The licensing, it's like, what are we paying for? But in order to use their phones, and they all do it. Cisco does it with their phones. All the phone companies do the same pricing structure.
Yeah.
The license is separate from the cost of the phone. It's
One thing we're hoping to see, I might have mentioned this to a couple of you in passing, as the evolution of our phone system goes, it won't be this iteration, but in following iterations, the introduction of soft phones. We will have for the first time, with this uplift, we'll have the ability to introduce soft phones, which is a phone that lives on the PC So then it becomes just the license, which is like $150 probably. We don't want to, not having those in the system ever before, we don't want to come out of the gate with this uplift and start offering those and have lots of problems and not, who knows what it's going to do to the network, how the network's going to need to be tuned. But we do want to trickle them out during this uplift. So over the next 5 to 7 years that this iteration of the phone system lives out its life, we'll slowly start putting soft phones out there. And as they become embraced by the next uplift, hopefully we'll be able to cut in half maybe how many handsets in that we're actually buying.
And these existing phones, they won't work with, you're switching over, right?
Yeah, they'll become, the ones James mentioned, the old phones will not work at all when we're waiting to do the uplift until we can get rid of those phones. And then the rest of the phones will only have a couple years before eventual software upgrades leave them in the dust as well.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even if we could just save 30 or 40 or 50,000, I mean, that covers your Microsoft 365, consulting fees. I realize that the department heads might think everyone needs these phones, but just my personal experience with this stuff is managers tend to use, the phones where they can walk around. And I mean, even right now, my phone is just forwarded to a cell phone. And I just wonder how many other people might, see that same benefit. But
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, if you go, I'm just thinking about the office, if you go into driver's licenses, they all need full functioning phone. The assessor's office, same thing. And their management wants them all to have the same phones because they transfer to different desks, so they want all the phones to be the same.
yeah.
As far as support goes.
And what about the same with Microsoft Office 365? I mean, in the old days, you could kind of get limited versions where you're just paying for 3 or 4 packages. So is that still possible?
It started, for access.
No, even Access is still,
Okay.
it's all a bundle now. I mean, that's what Wall Street's doing to any of these tech companies anymore, right? It's go get a subscription, don't sell product anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is anymore. There is a couple stages of Office, but the lightweight one is so light that people wouldn't even have like Word and Excel. So the lightweight one is basically email only, and then you go into what we're looking at, which is the Government 3 level, which adds in all the products that we typically use. So.
I will say that, and this is small consolation at this point, but we were predicting this to be a $300,000 a year cost rather than a $170,000 a year cost last year, because we were pricing just standard street price, but we're getting government pricing, so this is actually, for Microsoft, very good pricing.
What is the procurement on the phone systems? Is that considered outside of procurement law?
Sole source, yes. I'll touch bases with legal again, but with the brains of the equipment, there's really no other phones we could purchase.
If we migrated away from the system that we have right now, it'd probably cost us $1.5 million to do a full uplift, because it's based on an evolution of a system where we're uplifting parts of it, but we're not replacing it as a whole. So it's more or less a continuous investment than it is a buying a new product, so to speak.
So comparing that to our ERT, it's just adding modules and upgrading it instead of going within a completely different.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Questions, Bill? No. All right. So are you able to get any, additional information on, it doesn't sound like there's a lower grade phone. So are you tasking them for something specific?
No, I mean, if you say you've exhausted the options, I was just asking in essence, because, I know, it's just surprising, but I've been out of this for so long. I mean, usually the hard phones that I purchased, you could use them, they were kind of generic SIP phones, and you could actually use them with different systems a little bit. But then again, there are SIP phones they're locked into that phone system, so.
And just so we're perfectly transparent there, we could put other phones on the system. You could run Cisco's, you could run Polycoms, but you're going to lose a lot of the features that we do use commonly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just that, and where you might make up a little bit of the cost, if I can get a Polycom for $50 cheaper on the back end, trying to get the support company to make that work and deal with the eventual problems, because now you uplift the software for the Mitel phone system, Polycom doesn't have to adhere to that. Where if they're both Mitel, if we uplift the phone system and the handsets have a problem, Mitel themselves is obligated to make it all work. So we've tried that over the past, but we really try not to stray from it too much, because the soft costs will eat you on the back end.
Yeah.
Is that penny wise, pound foolish saying?
Something like that.
So, okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, so they're not tasked to bring anything back to us.
No.
Okay. Nothing further?
Fine.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, I think we have adult misdemeanor probation coming soon. And Tina. Okay, great. So we are here with the Board of Commissioners budget, which incorporates a lot of fun and interesting items.
Yes.
Yeah, we're back on. Okay, you can email me. Okay, so where would you like to start?
So Leanna Kaiser, for the record, I handed each of you a summary sheet similar to this. We'll kind of just go down the line.
Okay.
You also have a packet with the colorful pages. That's pretty much the highlights of the changes in the budget. So the first budget we'll do is our office, the BOCC office. So looking at your colorful summary sheet with the blue, green, and yellow. No changes to personnel. We haven't requested anything there. Changes to the B budget, all of the increase that we have are travel. We have a new commissioner on staff, and we hadn't budgeted for more than one commissioner to travel prior years. So we've increased travel for the additional commissioner, and then there are some increases in fees, airfare, lodging, the mileage rate increased, and some seminar fees increased. So that is pretty much the total of our increase to the BOCC office budget, which was $1,800 increase.
So about 6.6%.
So,
Okay?
any questions?
Nope.
Great.
Bill?
No.
Okay?
So the next budget is the general fund. There is an increase to this budget, about $55,000. I'm going to kind of go through these with you. On the colorful sheet again, in the green, which is the B, right in the middle, we're including the impact fee study consultant, which we hadn't budgeted for this year, so about $10,000 for Tischler Weiss for next year. I also increased the legal services for the county. That's our legal representation outside of our attorneys, in case we have a conflict and we have to hire an outside attorney. Those costs have been increasing over the past few years, so I thought it would be prudent to increase the budget a little bit. The next item is the electricity and gas for the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, their admin building. If they vacate the building and a BOCC department moves into that building, it will then fall under the general fund for budgeting purposes. Currently, the Sheriff's Office pays the utilities for that building, so I put in about 6 months of utilities, anticipating they might move in the spring of next year. And then possibly one of the BOCC departments would move in there. Also incorporated a 4.5% increase in fees, or rates. Avista has projected an increase in their rates. So that's calculated in that $22,000. Also, if a BOCC department or non-sheriff's department moves in there, there's also water, trash, sewer for that same building. So that's about $10,000. So those are the main increases for those. The next group on your sheet then is our outside community agencies that have requested funding from the county. If you turn to the next page, beyond that colorful page, is a spreadsheet. And we can go through each of them if you'd like, or we can just touch on the ones that ask for increases. So I'll leave it up to you how you'd like to handle those. But it's a spreadsheet that's kind of folded in half. It looks like this. That's the one we're going to go through. And so if you'd like to go through them line by line.
I kind of would like to do that. Are you all right with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Go on
The,
line by line.
Yeah, on this just
Yeah.
portion. Okay?
So the spreadsheet that I had emailed you, I had an error on there on the animal damage control board. The amount was right, but over all the way on the right side where it said it required to fund, if you looked at the email I'd sent you, it said yes, if the program was approved. That actually was for the Board of Community Guardian. It was on the wrong line. So
Gotcha.
this animal damage control board, based on the statute that I read, you are not required to fund this. So this is a state program. I just didn't want you to be confused thinking you had to based on the information I'd sent earlier.
Sure. All right. So any thoughts on that increase? We have had presentations by Mr. Robinson in the past I think that it's very low dollars, and it's worthwhile only because they help farmers who are getting attacked by predators, and they will go out and provide some trapping and mitigation with that. So I don't know if you want to keep them to the 2,500 in the past or entertain the increase, or, decide not to support them this year.
Well, I'd kind of like to get through the budget, the heavy lifting, before start agreeing to the outside agencies.
Okay. All right. So next.
So the next one is the Board of Community Guardian, and you did approve this program when they came before you, but prior to their April 1st statutory deadline for their annual report, and you had agreed that, yes, the program would continue in the next year. They have requested $20,000, and several times they have not used all of the funding that they've requested. They have some donors that do contribute to help offset the costs. So, and they are very frugal, a very frugal group, so.
Yes. Okay.
Thoughts on the amount? Keep the amount at 20, or?
Well, I guess Bruce doesn't want to make decisions on
Well,
amounts,
I mean,
so.
with this one, I mean, it's by statute, since we agreed to continue it, so that's different,
Okay.
Okay, so keep this one at the 20.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear. I
It's all
thought, some things we just have to do if we're going to continue.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
So do you want to go through all of them now? We'll do the next one too, each of them at one at a time? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one is the Coeur d'Alene Economic Development, formerly known as Jobs Plus.
Okay. So they're asking for a $5,000 increase. And just a little history on that, they used to get $22,000 somewhere around fiscal year 17, 18. And then the board at that time decided without their request to up it to $50,000 total. So to increase it by $28,000. And that's how they got to the 50. Then during COVID, we backed that back down, and now they're asking to be brought back up again.
They do ask for 50 every year.
Right. So, anyway.
So thoughts on this one? Is this another one you'd like to wait on?
I mean, you can go through them. I guess the point is that without figuring out all the other parts of the budget, it's hard to say yes to,
Okay.
these outside requests.
Sometimes it's easy to say no, though.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
this one, I'm
I mean-
open to reducing that. And we can just go through it today if you want, unless there's something that you absolutely can.
On that one, I am not in favor of funding them at all.
Okay. So you bring them down to 0.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next one, Heritage Health. And they have been at 65, and then we had some budget crunches, and so they agreed to 50. And Mr. Baker was here, and he said that, essentially what I heard is they could survive without community support.
Yes, and I have requested several times for an actual funding request letter from them and have not heard anything.
Okay, so they haven't even made a formal request.
Yeah, so, no.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So Kootenai Recovery Community Center, they'd requested 10,000.
We've had a couple different presentations from them. They are kind of in the drug addiction, mental health area, and it it's helpful. I don't know if you would like any up-to-date metrics on how many people they help and stuff like that. If you wanted to do that.
I think it would certainly be helpful. I mean, I know that they, organizations like that do,
I
Okay,
can
so-
certainly request that from them.
Okay.
Okay?
North Idaho Crisis Center, I don't know the history of going from 15,000 to 7,500, but I know I supported the going up to 10,000, and that is because, let's see, that's safe passages. I believe this was when the courts decided that police could not arrest, actually Keith would know this, could not arrest on a misdemeanor not committed in their presence. So specifically domestic violence was going to have some issues. And so to bring up that funding was going to be helpful to that agency due to the law change.
Who was that?
North Idaho Crisis Center.
Oh,
I think that was the one that, yeah. So thoughts on that one or wait?
I mean, last week we were talking about people sleeping on the floor and not getting paid, so I'm happy to wait.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
Totally fine. I'm just trying to explain and give some
Yeah,
background.
no, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And Safe Passages, same thing, provides a community service for those vulnerable. Soil and water conservation, sorry, Leanna, I can just
Nope,
go
we're
ahead through
great.
this. They have actually increased their ask for this, and so that's something that I would want to revisit at the right time, because I probably wouldn't support that. That one. University of Idaho Extension, they are not asking for an increase, and that, I know that both of you have been in receipt of dozens and dozens of emails on
Yes.
support for that program.
And letters.
And letters, yes, actually, forgot about the
And they have
letters.
not asked for an increase for
Right.
3 years. This is the third year in a row. However, next year they probably will. I don't know if they can
Sustain them.
go another year without asking for an increase,
Right,
so.
because we've kind of held them, around the same amount for the last few years. All right, Fig Tree Resource Directory. I've seen a copy of it. I'm not sure how widely it's used. So Keith, are you familiar with that one at all?
They have not asked for a request either,
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So if they've not asked for requests, then I would say no.
right? Okay.
Okay. And the lake study would be a no because they
Again,
have
not
millions
asked
of
for any
dollars.
anything.
Right, yep. And then the 53,000 was a one-time as well. And so
Right,
those
for
are
the
just the
lake study.
totals?
So then on the last page is the senior centers.
Yeah,
We typically donate to them. They do not request funding, but we provide, you can see, small amount to each of the senior centers to provide for their programs, and some of them provide food for the seniors. They have delivery programs that help the
shut-ins
seniors,
and
so.
stuff like that. So for me, that's a high-value program that doesn't cost a lot of money, but we can absolutely take that up once we figure out what we're working with.
Yep, and I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, so Leanna, are you okay with stopping right here at this fund? And then because
Sure.
airport's
Oh, yeah.
waiting outside, and
You
I
bet.
know adult misdemeanor probation's going to go very quickly.
You bet.
So thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you, Leanna.
Were copies provided to you about my request?
If they were, I did not print them.
I thought sometimes you guys use the book.
Yeah, no book, we're not to the book part yet because not everything's been submitted.
Okay, I have then I'll make copies. Okay, would you like the airport to come in and start?
Yeah, it's up to you. Do you want to wait for Linnell or you want the airport to come in and start?
I'd like to have the copies, so.
Okay.
So I can grab the airport real quick if you like me to.
Sure. Because I think the airport's not scheduled to go very long, so. Oh, they may not have their full budget? Okay. All right. All right, airport, come on up front. Thank you for waiting. We're trying to fit people in. Yeah. All right, you can just push your button on the microphone and, all right. Any handouts today?
We had a little problem this morning with the drives being down.
Okay.
We had an FAA meeting before this, and we weren't able to get what we needed to bring, so we kind of have the bare minimum here.
No problem. Not everybody is giving handouts, so I just thought I'd ask in case you had them. Okay.
I don't know where you want us to start. Do you want us to just go over items that we would like to change in the budget? Okay.
Yeah, we can start there.
Okay, the auditor's office has requested that we put all of our airport use fees back into one account at the admin level, so 4585. So we'd like to submit that change. Otherwise, we have a small increase in our rents and leases.
And this is
for
revenues?
revenue.
Okay.
Mhm. Yes, and those are really all the changes for revenue at this time in Fund 30.
Okay.
Oh, see, I wish I had that other, I didn't even get that printed. For non-capital software, I believe we're going to be able to stay at the 2023 calculation of 18,200. We're paying the same vendors out of that account at this.
So it's
next
nothing
year.
new, it's just the ongoing
Yes.
support?
Software.
Correct.
Okay, yearly support.
Right. Non-capital equipment, this year we're at 5,000, but I think we were talking about bumping that up to closer to 10 because we've got some light fixtures we want to upgrade in the Tahoe, and then some additional radios we need to purchase.
Correct.
Mhm. And we made some changes to travel and training. Do you want to go over that?
The FAA's made some changes, change requirements for our ACM. We do maintain 2 sets of reels, runway identifiers, and 2 sets of approach path position indicators. And we are going to be required to send a couple of folks to school to get certified on these. This is something new with the FAA, and they are nav aids that we maintain, so we are responsible for the compliance. We've been doing it all along, although it's been years since we've actually sent somebody to the school to get certified for it. I don't believe there's anybody in the crew currently that is certified, so we need to get that done. We've got some other training requirements we're going to have for folks, so we thought we should increase on that budget for training and travel.
Okay, do you have an amount at this point?
I'm just taking a look at that.
If not, when you get everything together, you can email us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were hoping to pull it off this morning. Kim got in there, she said, we can't open anything. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So we had to come here without all of our handouts, I apologize.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also, we, have later this afternoon, if that'd be helpful, but if you don't mind muddling through it, it's fine too.
Yeah, well, we don't have a lot.
No, we didn't
No.
do a unilateral upgrade. I dissected each object code to look at where we really needed to focus on.
Okay.
So we've got increases to water, sewer, and garbage based on what we pay waste management weekly. That's gone up significantly. In terms of electric and natural gas, I got some information from the auditor's office with regards to the Idaho rate increases for natural gas and electric. And I came up with an average of what we pay to electric and to natural gas, and then applied the 15% increase to our electrical and the 3.5% to our natural gas. So that is going up 10%, 10.4%. Water and sewer is going up 36%, so.
So Avondale Water and Harb Sewer?
In the admin portion of it, we pay, water, sewer, garbage is just waste management in the admin portion. We'll cover the other as we go into the different level operating budgets.
Okay, it's just 36% seems very high.
Well, they are charging a lot for the fuel surcharges.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I can get the details on that, and I'll show you what we started paying at the beginning of the fiscal year and where we're at now comparatively. Because we didn't change our container size, so it's.
Okay.
We're going to make a little shift in not making any change between vehicle maintenance and expenses and equipment maintenance supplies, just because of the way it lines out. So the same dollar amount, but I want to change those around so they make more sense. But we do need to up our vehicle repair. So now into our operations side, vehicle repair and equipment repair. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, they took some things out of the budget since I left, and when I came back and started looking at the equipment we have. We have a lot of good equipment, but it's older. And there's not much of a buffer in there if we lose an engine or a transmission at $7,000. So given the equipment that we do use, planning for one disaster, I opted to increase it from $14,200 to a flat $20,000. And that's basically the cost of one transmission or one engine. I think that's pretty reasonable considering about a dozen pieces of equipment we have fall in that category.
Okay.
Okay.
Nope, so really all that leaves is our,
Capital request?
yep, capital request and personnel. You want to do capital?
Yep. So we have the earth furnace was what, 28?
22. I didn't do a form on it yet.
So we lost the furnace in the fire station is 10, 12 years old. It was at the bare minimum size for that building. It's a FAA government job, everything's bid at the minimal. We've lost that furnace twice last summer. We've had problems with it before I retired 2.5 years ago. But we lost the furnace completely. There's no backup, no electric backup in that building whatsoever. And we fractured a water pipe. And I would like to replace that furnace. I think it's much needed. And we're gonna size it, I think it's about 8,000 BTU higher and different flow rate on it. We have the information. I don't have it with me.
Sure.
At any rate, it's a $22,000 upgrade to the building, but considering that fire truck's a $500,000 piece of equipment, I would hate to not do something about repairing the
Well,
heat.
our new tenants are going to be affected by this, aren't they? Don't we need to?
Pardon?
Our new tenants, aren't they going to be affected by this?
No. No, the heat, that, for the admin portion of the building is actually a furnace. It's up in the ceiling. What heats the ARF bay, the storage part, and the back where the air compressor, breathing compressor is the in-floor heat. And that's the one that, we've had 2 or 3 different people look at it. The first 2 couldn't even figure it out. The second one was somewhere around $32,000. And so we got this gentleman that actually has a reputation. This is what he does. And he came in and reassessed the system, and he can simplify it for us and put it in at a higher BTU with a newer unit at a lower cost. I've already gone through everything that he's proposed, and it seems a pretty reasonable solution to keeping heat in that building.
So that just leaves, we wanted to touch base real quick on the additional FTE and overtime request. I know it'll be in the, I believe it's on the agenda for the HR meeting this
it
coming
will
week.
be. Yes.
But based on the projection from the auditor's office, we anticipate that we will be able to cover the FY23 increase and the FY24 increase if you approve what we're asking for the additional FTE and the additional overtime with our revenues over our expenses.
And
projection.
the $22,000 capital outlay as well for the unit?
I believe so. I need to
We're gonna
double
be
check
close.
that, yeah. I need to double check that number, but I think we're gonna be real.
Excuse me. We're going to be close, Commissioner, and I don't know when the purchase of right-of-way from City of Hayden would come in. And I'm
Sooner than we-
anticipating that FAA-approved expenditures of that money for the airport, the furnace for the fire station is gonna, it will qualify for that funding. I can't count on that today because I don't have it in hand.
Sure, perfect. All right, any questions?
No, thank you.
No.
You good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So when you have updated information, just email it to us and thanks. All right, thanks for waiting patiently, Director Hutchison with Adult Misdemeanor Probation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, we'll start off with, the first part is the
You gotta
revenue.
get your microphone.
First part we'll start off is with the revenue. That's not up there on the sheets or anything like that. Revenues we're looking at, and there's been like kind of big influx. Last month and a half, we've had almost 100 cases come into our caseload. So if I do the numbers rudimentary very easily, that would be additional $72,000 approximately if everything was brought in to AMP next year. So last year, we had our budget revenue set at $210,000. What I submitted a couple months ago, or a month and a half ago, was to move it to $255,000. Actually, I want to move it to $270,000.
Okay.
Last year, we brought in $289,000, so I'm thinking of being good on the conservative side of it with the additional people coming in. The reason why I wanted to move that is to be more accurate, then it's less tax money that we're having to put towards AMP, what they're doing. So that's where I want to go into our A budget. Our A budget, currently, last July, the state approved certificate pay, not certificates for AMP to be the intermediate and advanced. So it was too late to bring it into the budget year because I feel like you bring it in each year to make sure you're in advance of just trying to think ahead. So this year, the officers applied for it. We had 9 certificates that are being issued, that have been issued out to current date. And then I also wanted to include 2 extra certificates because a new person coming on of his experience and level, he would qualify right away for 2 certificates. So that would be 11 total. So when we met last year with HR, I was talking to them and saying, what's the easy way of following this? It's, if you do percentages and everything else, it just becomes monotonous. So kind of went back to the old days, $1 per certificate. Just make it simple. and $1 an hour per certificate. So the A budget with the adjustments of adding $1 per certificate would be approximately about $24,000, not fully loaded and stuff. So that's just an approximation on that. So I wanted to bring that in with the certificate pay. The second thing was employee bonus, or kind of like around November time. I'd like to give each employee, let them take home about $100. So I asked for $127. So the taxes could be taken out and they would have a full $100 coming to them for, just retention and doing a good job for the year. And the third part for the A budget I was going to ask for, I've asked for it the last few years. It's call out or / standby time. For each week that they're on a call out or standby time, I would like to give them 1 day off. They would have to work it. It's a full day. It's not piece it here, piece it there. We would keep track of it internally. So again, that would be not at a cost, a financial cost, but it would just be time off, and we would track that internally. That was brought forward by the officers because they didn't want the money, they wanted the time is very important to them. So that's where I'm at on the A budgets. Any questions on that?
Questions?
Okay, the B budget, you have two B budgets in front of you there. You have one for the K-9 and one for operations. The K-9 one first, the big adjustment is the $2,000 for Archon, which is about 3/4 the way down on the right-hand side there. With Archon is our K-9 guy actually is our master instructor. He's one of the original instructors to the county, and to keep his level of CEUs up and everything else, he has to train at a certain level consistently. So again, he's been going to the gym, working with all the other law enforcement. The original gym closed down because the owner passed away, so they have to go to another gym. Well, there's going to be a slight fee for that. The reason is for the $2,000 is because the current employee coming in that's going to be hired with us is already an Archon instructor too. So I'd be sending both of those guys to continue their continuing education on and their certifications for Archon. So that was the big adjustment on that side for K-9. And then the other B budget is operations. We have several different things within that budget. There's a $6,000 increase. We have to update some vests and things, and the update and vests takes about $1,000 to about $1,200. Those vests are updated every 5 years. So we have to update some vests. And also the new employees, we're getting them on board. So it depends on when they get in and getting them fitted, because it takes usually 3 months to get them in. So if it doesn't come out of this budget, it comes out of next budget. That's why the increase is. Also, we were looking at the phones. We're looking at phones. There's more technology out there right now. We're having a lot of people in jail right now. They want to start trying to get some of them out. They're asking, how can we track them? How can we do things better and stuff? I've been looking at 4 different software systems. It's been kind of difficult to work with them right now with everything that's going on with their changes. But we could possibly able to track people with their cell phones, but it would be paid for by them. So there's an increase in there on the cell phone area. What we would do is we purchase a cell phone up front, it'd be their own phone. We pull their cell phone stipend from them, and then we pay for their service. And then purchasing the cell phone right up front. Purchasing the cell phone is $88, and then the monthly fee would go to $55 for that cell phone for that PO. So it's just a $20 difference on the stipend. The initial real cost is going to be purchasing the phone for $88. I think we're going to have to go to something like this for the tracking part in the future. I'm not locked in on anything yet, but again, I don't want to go buy a software system and then come back to you and say I don't have the hardware to run the software system and put it on their personal phones for tracking their probationers. Another thing too that's come up is we have hearing impaired. A lot of officers now want to be able to text and communicate with their hearing impaired people, so they don't want to use their personal phones to be texting all the time. So the texting's back and forth. And also, a lot of our probationers don't have emails, they have texting. So they don't want to be giving out their personal phones number for the texting. So again, it was brought to us by the officers saying, hey, is it possible to do this? I said, sure, anything's possible, we just got to talk to you about it. But the nice part about this whole thing coming back in full circle with what we're looking at is we're looking at, with A and B budget, both B budgets and the A budget, it's about $45,000, and we're increasing our revenue to $60,000. So I'm not asking for tax money, I am increasing my revenues to try to cover this, all these requests. And that's the request I'm asking for.
You give me those numbers again. I know 270 is the revenue now.
Yes.
And then your increase was,
For the A budget's gonna probably be approximately, I said 26,000.
okay,
And then the B budget increase is gonna be approximately 17,000.
okay.
And your revenues will increase slightly above that, you think?
Oh, yeah.
72,000.
72.
Yeah, is the-
Yep. On the conservative side, I'm saying 60, but I feel it's
Oh.
gonna go up at least that because of the number of probationers that we have right now on.
Right. Okay.
And then, so my hope was too, is to make sure I wasn't saying I wanted it all back, because I know you guys are trying to do step increases. I was hoping to have some money left in there so it would help offset our step increases for our department.
Sure.
And that's my presentation.
All right, questions?
No questions, thank you.
All right, thanks so much for
Thank you.
being patient and waiting. Yep.
Came early, so
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
you guys are applying through them. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ear.
Just trying to be parking waterways in here.
Yeah. All right, are we, yeah, we can go back to you now?
Okay, so on the community support, it sounds like the direction I'm getting is for the Board of Community Guardian. I'll put the placeholder in for the 20,000.
Yes.
And also for the University of Idaho Extension. Everything else I'll leave out until I have further direction after the budget deliberations start.
I think we should do everything except community guardians.
Put it all in, so you're not considering,
Put it in so you can take it out, or leave it out and then add it in later? What would you prefer?
Leave it out and add it in later.
Okay.
okay?
So not even the University of Idaho Extension? Leave it out? It's 156,000.
I mean, you all talk to me a little bit. You've been here longer than me, so tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I always have my, my druthers, but without having, without understanding what our deficit is going to be, I don't necessarily want to commit one way or the other, except, I mean, we already took out 4 by my calculation, so I think we can leave everything in except for those 4 items that we agreed on.
The ones you agreed on, 0?
Yes.
So leave out the Jobs Plus.
I don't know, did we get 2 on that one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Heritage Health,
and,
yep.
okay,
and I had weight on the others.
yes.
So those are the only 2 you want me to leave out? You want me to put everything in and leave those 2 out? That's 100,000.
Okay, well, so the ones that don't have requests this year, those aren't in anyway.
The only one that didn't put in a request was Heritage Health, and I've included their last year's number.
Right, but I was just looking at the Fig Tree and the NAS and all that stuff.
Right, they
the
did
one time.
not, right.
Right.
There's no request there.
Okay, so I was counting those, all right.
So if you look just next to the orange column, it says FY24 request.
Yeah.
So those ones at the bottom didn't have a request for this year.
Okay, so what you're saying then, I guess, you said leave it out, add it back in later, you're all right? So the thing that we are keeping in though is Board of Community Guardians at 20,000, and that's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You're good with that?
And then during deliberations, you'll just advise if any of those should be added back in.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to do it that way. I'd rather leave it in and then cut it later, only it's just cleaner in the system. We don't want to look at our deficit and say, wow, we're 19 million in the hole, and then start adding stuff back in, which makes us more than 19 million in the hole, which we better not be that much this year. So that would be my only thing, is to say, the ones that you're 100% not going to fund or consider, take those out now, leave everything else in, and then as we get that information in, you can go back and scalpel the rest of them.
Well, I'm fine with that. In the end, it just seems like we need to figure out how to take care of the folks that we've been talking about taking care of first.
I agree.
Before we start talking about taking care of folks outside of the organization.
Yep.
Right. I just want to make it easier for you during deliberations and for Brandy, so that you'll know what we did here.
Right.
Because when I put this in, this number will just go into a larger number, and I don't know that you'll all remember all these other things. So I just want to make it easier for you.
Sure.
So I can put in just 20,000 if you want for community support. Is that what your direction is?
Well, I don't want
Look,
to dump
if-
the senior centers. And,
If it's easier to revisit this with that money in there, I'm
Yes.
fine with that.
okay.
You know,
Except for the two that you guys have absolutely said you're not going to fund.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So I will add everything in except for Heritage Health and Jobs Plus.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay,
That is correct.
okay. Okay. Very good. Okay, I think that's it for the general fund. I did actually find you had asked for some matrix on Kootenai Recovery Community Center in their funding request letter.
Oh,
There
it has
actually is some numbers in there.
Okay.
How many people came through their door, how many phone calls, how many group counseling sessions they had, how many hours they spent on phone calls and doctor appointments, and
If you can, I'm sure you already given it to
Yes.
us. If you can forward it to
I
us
will
again.
send it to you again, yes.
I did see something about that. It's
Yes.
just, there was so much. It
There's
was
a lot.
hard to
It
kind
was
of,
in the email that had that spreadsheet of the
Oh,
community.
okay.
It was all of the donation letters.
Okay.
But I can send it as a separate email to make it easy.
The one that came in when I was in Boise?
Yes.
Or right before?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
On
Okay.
Thursday. Okay. So that's it for the general fund, unless you had any other questions.
I'm good.
Okay, so the next one we're gonna do is the justice fund.
Yes.
And this has a decrease of almost $12,000, and that's because the IAC, we have two funds. We have the litigation fund and the natural resource fund, and we alternate years we pay this. So one year we pay $2,700, the next year we pay $15,000. So this year we paid $15,000, next year we pay $2,700. So the request always fluctuates at $12,000 every other year.
And I think this is a different line item anyway, but IEC is not going to raise their dues
Oh,
for
great.
FY24.
Great, because I didn't budget for an increase, so that's good news.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the only item for the justice fund. The next
Okay.
fund is the tourism fund, and that's pretty much just a pass-through.
Pass-through.
That's the money that's sent to us from the state on the Post Falls racing track, and then we then distribute it to Post Falls. So it's generally $1,500 in revenue, $1,500 in expenses, and it's just a pass-through.
Okay.
Generally, those equal every year on the books. Okay, and the next one is the Health District. This is Panhandle Health District. They're actually meeting with you on Thursday to go over the details of this. They are not requesting any increase in the funding from the counties. However, their distribution of their request is based on population and valuation, and because our population and valuation fluctuated this year, so does our requested amount. So Kootenai County will be requested to contribute about $11,000 more this year. And like I said, they'll go over this with you on Thursday, And then Commissioner Duncan will be at the budget hearing meeting with all of the other chairmen of the
5 northern
Yeah, yeah.
counties.
And that will be on May 25th. So that's when they actually finalize their budget and the requests. But I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. Any questions on that one?
No, we'll get all our information
And I-
on Thursday.
And I watched their meeting. They had a meeting where they went over the calculations. And Christine Krummer will be here with Don Duffy on Thursday and go over all of the calculations and explain it all to you.
Okay.
So, okay? And the next one is district court. This is, there's no change to this budget item. We only budget one item in district court's budget, and that is the CASA attorney. So that is currently Schwartz Law. CASA and Schwartz Law have agreed to continue their relationship for next year with no increase in the request. So we pay Schwartz Law $100,000. The budget here is $106,000 because we have some conflicts for CASA. So sometimes when they cannot be the attorney, we have to conflict it out. So we budgeted a little bit for that. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Nope, okay. And then the last one is the aquifer. Now, they will also be meeting with you on Thursday. Nisha Mayani will meet with you and go over their entire budget. They do have an increase in their requests because they have some projects that they want to do next year. They have a large fund balance that they're trying to decrease, so this is not any kind of increase in tax funding. So about $34,000 more than the current year is what they're requesting out of their fund balance.
So I'll just give a little bit of background on that. So they did have a $7 fee, and that was gaining way too much fund balance. So my last year as chairman, I got that reduced to $5.74. And they're still gaining fund balance. So they're very aware of that. What happened in previous years was the legislature saw that they had a huge fund balance and didn't let them collect for an entire year, which is not a good way to do that because it messes all kinds of internal controls up. So we want to be able to continue to look at that balance. Like, do we need to lower the fee? Do we need to keep the fee the same? So Nisha, we'll have that discussion with her on Thursday as well, but I wanted you to hear it now and hear it again on Thursday. So you kind of, aquifer is a little bit of an odd duck. It's statutorily required. It is fee-based. And so they're kind of separate from the county. They're not, tax dollars per se. They're fee-based, but still coming out of the same pocket.
And I think that their fund balance increased during COVID because a lot of the projects that they had budgeted for 2 years didn't happen. And so they just kept collecting money and they weren't able to spend the money they had planned on. So their fund balance increased a bit more than they had anticipated. But they have some ideas for next year, some big projects that they want to do. So Nisha will bring those forward on Thursday. So, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that your whole thing?
That was it. It was a very brief
concise
presentation after a lot of work.
Yes. Well, thank you for doing all that work.
You're welcome. And if you have any questions, you know where I sit. You can definitely just email me or ask me anything you need.
Okay.
And I'll make those changes you requested.
All right. And do we know if people are going to come in, because it looks like we now have a break until...
Juvenile detention is supposed to be heading over as soon as they could. They had a meeting and then they would be heading over. Do you have information?
Julie texted me and said Eric might come in early.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's
Okay. So then what I would say is we can take a recess, because we've been doing this for an hour and a half now. And then you'll just let us know when they're here,
Yes.
I suppose.
And you should
So-
just have 2 more before lunch, juvenile detention and public defender.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I guess my question would be, can anybody else come in earlier?
I believe she's been making phone calls to try to
Okay.
get more people to come earlier.
All right.
I believe Parks and Waterways will be ready at 2:30,
Okay, right after the business meeting.
and Solid Waste will be ready at 3.
Okay.
I believe the Veteran Service Office is at the mercy of appointments they had scheduled for the day, so they have to work around that. Building and Grounds, I'm not sure if they'll be ready. They were
Right.
waiting on more information.
Okay.
Juvenile Probation, I believe.
Can they
we're
come
not
in early?
Positive when they're coming, as far
Okay,
as I know.
because
We're trying to get them early.
if I would, my goal would be to get everything done before before
Yes.
our 2 o'clock business meeting.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, so, if staff can make that happen, that's great.
Okay.
So otherwise, we are waiting for juvenile detention to come, so we'll just be on recess
So
until they
you would
get
like to
here.
have somebody come at 1:30?
Yeah, does that give enough time for lunch?
If you break from 12 to 1, maybe 1:15, 1:30?
1:15, I think would be good. Does
Okay.
that work for you?
We'll see if we can
Okay.
get anybody at 1:15.
Okay.
Okay, we'll work on
Thank
that.
you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So we're going into recess?
Yes, yep, we're in recess. Until 11, but we appreciate you being here, so.
Absolutely, I got the memo, so.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, bring us
All
some
right.
handouts.
Thank you.
And remind me who your companion is.
Okay, thank you. This is Zach Green-Winter. He's one of our shift supervisors, and he's just accompanying the meetings today. This is one of them.
Okay.
So field trip. All right, well, thank you, Commissioners. Eric Sheffield, Juvenile Detention, here to present our 2024 budget prep. I'll just go over this horizontal chart that you have before you. It just basically shows our 23 adopted and our 2024 prep. It's broken down into categories, so you have a visual there where we're over, where we're under. When we just isolate the B budget from revenues, we were able to, go through and take $4,500 out of our budget. We just found areas that we could lean it up a little bit. But then we were faced with anticipated gas and electric increases, 4.7 for gas, 15.4% for electric. And in conversations with the auditor's office, because we're already at about 72% of usage this year, so we did the calculations, and we think it's going to be about a $13,000 increase next year. Now, the one thing we have going for us is we do have new HVAC units being installed this year, so we're hoping that they're more energy efficient, but I don't know how to calculate that in, so I didn't. Maybe they're 10% more efficient. Maybe they're 20, maybe they're 5. So we just based that estimation based on our current usage and the increases coming in to the next year. So what that did to our B budget was that gave us a 5% increase. And that 5% equates to the $8,500. If we took $4,500 out, we put $12,000 in, and that's the increase. Okay, but then the other chart you have before you is revenue for housing. And you can see it kind of curves down. And these are revenues, and it curves down in correlation with COVID. Everything went, our housing went down, our revenue from other counties went down. So we're getting back on course. If you take a look at 2023 current, this was halfway through the year. We're already at $69,000 in revenues. So we're kind of expecting to double that as the year progresses. We have 3 kids from other counties in detention right now, and that alone's generating about $450 a day. So that's where we're getting that revenue. So what we did to calculate our revenue is we took 2019, 20, 21, and 23 projected, and I took 2022 out. That's an outlier. It was the lowest revenue, and it is directly related to housing going down. So I didn't really feel like it was fair to add that one into the mix. So that's how I come up with the $117,000 in revenue. So we take our B budget that goes up 5%, we add in our revenues, and we're flat, or we're theoretically ahead in the black by about $3,500. So that's what we are expecting. And then I gave you the budget worksheet, and it just shows the comparisons, 23 to 24. It shows the pluses and the minuses, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have about that or anything else in our budget.
Any questions?
Looks like it's going in the right direction.
All right, excellent.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you guys very much. Appreciate your time.
I will just mention one thing. Over the course of juvenile detention, they typically do their staffing based on the projected numbers. So you're not thinking about you're going to need any staffing increase right now with the projected numbers.
Absolutely right. We are, it's interesting. Our population 1 month ago was 15. We hit 36 this weekend. It's impossible to predict, where we're going to be a year from now. But we just got back from a staffing meeting where we reviewed petitions for the last 2 weeks, and that's basically charges filed to juveniles. There were 29 juveniles on that list, so there seems to be a real uprise there. So, we're anticipating, we're hoping for, we budgeted for an average of 22. If we take our 3-year average, we're really at about 20, but there's an upward trend right now. So we've counted all that into our budget.
So saying in years past, they've come to us and said, hey, our numbers don't support our staffing, and through attrition, we'll freeze this position, or we'll give this position up. But always understanding that this is a state mandated thing and it involves juveniles. So I've always told them, hey, you tell me you need a body, you're getting a body, because we can't, that the liabilities, there. So I just wanted to point that out, that's what juvenile detention has over and over kind of operated under.
That's right.
That's right. We don't need it, but when we need it back.
Yeah.
And if we have a position that's out there and we don't feel it needs to be filled, we'll come to you and we'll let you know. And historically, there's a misconception that it's an impossible battle once you give a position up to get a position, but right, Commissioner, we plan ahead for that. So if we lose one through attrition and we need to come back 2 years later and ask, that's how we'll do it.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Director Ashmore, here's on.
Director, okay.
Right,
So,
okay.
right, do we know if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Huh? Well,
It's probably on the day that it's correct.
right. All right, so we'll go ahead and,
I'm jumping for the bathroom.
Take 5.
Jumping
Yeah.
is good.
yep, so we'll definitely take time right now. All right, welcome back. It is 10:58. We are here. Welcome back. It's 10:58. We're here with our Juvenile Probation Director, Brian Alexander, and go right ahead.
So Brian Alexander, Juvenile Probation for the record. Excuse me, this is my first budget season. So I guess on the ops budget for juvenile probation, we have kept that flat, just kind of maneuvered some line items around. But the ops budget has remained flat from last year. Our tobacco budget has an increase for this year. Reason for that is we have our case management system, or CMS, which is an outdated system, but they've allowed us to continue to run it on the older model without upgrades. They just kind of keep it running for us. They let us know at the end of last year that they're eventually going to phase that out and kind of force everybody to go to their cloud version, their 2.0. And then as well as IJOS, the Idaho Juvenile Offender System, for the state is putting out a web version case management system as well. So we're kind of looking at both. But what I've done with the CMS version, there's two different versions we can do if we were to upgrade with them. And one is, it's a $12,000 fee one time to upgrade to the cloud version and remain on the county servers. And the other option two is a $24,000 one-time fee, which would be to do the upgrade and then move our CMS management system off the county servers to their servers. And in speaking with Grant in IT, they were kind of in favor of the second option to remove it off the county servers. For one, that would allow them more time to deal with other county issues, and not that, because it would be removed, as well as open up a lot more space on the county servers. So I budgeted just for that worst or second case option next fiscal year if that were to come to fruition. Now the IJOS system is a state system, so it is free, which has a good ring to it. But until we see what that looks like, we don't know if that's a viable option for us to switch to yet.
When will we know?
They're hoping to have it rolled out by October.
Okay.
And then, so the current counties that are using it will switch to that. I know Bonner County switched to IJOS, the old version they have now, and they're not in favor of it, just because it is a state system, so it's very plain. It's not geared to any one entity because it's for statewide use. So hopefully that cloud version will be a little bit more, have a little more mobility to it to mold to us and what we use. So
what is the yearly cost?
For IJOS would be $0.
I'm sorry, for, all the
And
options.
then for CMS, it would remain the same at, I believe it is $12,600, and we split that with detention because they also use CMS. And that one time, either option, if we stay with CMS, also does include the upgrade to juvenile detention as well.
Okay. So the 24,000 is just the one-time upgrade fee, but then it would still remain 12,000 a year?
Correct.
Okay. Which is split. Okay.
But that could go down if you switch to the upgraded Idaho software.
So yeah, if we upgraded with the IJOS version, then it would be $0 to switch over and $0 a year. So.
But is it really going to serve your need? And then it's tobacco funds, which has, well, 800,000 minus a couple of things we've approved lately in there. So, I mean, I want to get something that works for the thing, and state notoriously has had not the best luck.
Yeah.
Yes, I have my reservations with the state system. Just the version now is not real user-friendly, and yes, like any other state system, when it's down, I mean, that would hinder us to be able to work versus CMS or a private client where we have IT services and that kind of stuff. But yeah, until we can see both versions to see what is really going to work and what won't. But just kind of on the back end, wanting to plan in case it does hope to see both versions by October to kind of know, so if we have to switch over next fiscal year, it's been budgeted for.
Okay. So because it is tobacco funds, I'd be in favor of going with whatever version the director says is going to work best for the group.
Okay.
So I guess keep the 24,000 in. Okay. Anything else?
Lottery
Okay.
budget, slight increase in the lottery budget. We have a contracted employee, Amelia Kirk, who is our mentor program coordinator. She's been doing it for at least the last 10 years. So in talking with her, she's still making $15 an hour, so I've put in there to the budget to up her $2 to $17 an hour, using the lottery money for that. She is a year-to-year contract, so that would be shown in the new contract that I'd put before the board in October.
Do we have any wage information as far as, is this arbitrary number, or is this what most coordinators get paid?
It's kind of where most coordinators are at right now. I know Jackson, our other contract, is around 19.
Okay.
And they both kind of dual role. They're also with the Juvenile Justice Outreach. So that's kind of been the median range of where it's at. I mean, the high end would be, around 20. So, but I know her last increase, I believe, was under Debbie Nadeau, that bumped her up to the 15 a couple years ago, so.
Okay. I mean, she's done really well for your department, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not going to lose her because she can go somewhere else for more. And then you got to come back to us mid-year and say, I need this increase. Because can you hire somebody else in her position for $17 an hour?
Probably not, no.
Okay. And it's a contract individual, so it's a little bit different than just our employee. But I would want to make sure. I mean, Jackson been in the position longer than?
Actually, Amelia's been in the position longer.
Okay. So maybe you want to look at that contract a little bit closer?
Okay.
I don't know, what do you think?
We should be paying people like market rate for their jobs,
Okay.
We want to keep them,
Right.
especially good ones.
And the lottery, what's that fund balance?
The fund balance was around 300,000.
Okay.
So.
All right, maybe just take a look at that, because once again, I hate collecting tax money and not using it because there's a reason for it. So,
okay.
Let's bless our kids with it and not, I don't know.
Okay.
So.
And then the one other increase that's in the lottery budget is a discussion for later, is the parking situation we have with our vehicles. We currently have 9 county vehicles that we park in the city garage right next to our building. We've been paying $18 a month per car for those since it was built. And now the city or Diamond Parking has come back and they're starting to give us warnings and issue tickets for parking our vehicles overnight. So I've been working with the city on that. Found out there is a city ordinance that came into play in 2019. I don't know why they're just now starting to enforce it. But the only overnight parking is allowed is McEwen. And then they have the rate of $18.50 per vehicle per month to park overnight there. So that's kind of the agreement. They've come back and said, we'll honor that here for you guys. So with that, I've kind of increased that budget to potentially account for that if that's the route we go, just to plan ahead for those 9 vehicles.
Right, and it is just a discussion item for this afternoon, right?
Yes.
Okay, I imagine we can have the discussion now and then take you off the agenda for 2 o'clock so you don't have to come back.
Okay.
So, because it is budget related. I've kind of asked Brian for a return on investment look at, because one of our options, as opposed to parking overnight, it's going to take a little bit of employee work, you know, to get the vehicles in and out of the thing, but to fence that parking area behind the JJC. So it's on 4th and Coeur d'Alene?
Lakeside.
Lakeside, 4th and Lakeside. So it's that west parking lot, which you've parked there before. So I've just kind of asked him to bring that forward, like how much would it cost to fence it with a gate and, you know, kind of secured parking versus just paying the extra $18 for overnight parking per vehicle per month. So, and once again, these are restricted funds.
Correct.
Yeah, a lottery funds. So, yeah. All right. Any other thoughts or comments on that?
Nope, that makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, just if Greg can help you with that quote or whatever, and then bring it back to us and let us know, and you can just submit it on, you know, an email to us, and we can put that in our budget information. So.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else noteworthy?
I think that's it.
Okay. And any questions? Nope.
Nope, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So public defender will be here at 11:30. And I would say let's not take anybody after her this morning. And I think they are working at getting some people in. Veterans thinks he can come in at 3, but probably not before then. So we'll just have to do the business meeting and then come back.
Yeah.
3 o'clock. Building and grounds is actually going to be on another day, and we've already done BOCC. So, and I think solid waste and parks and waterways are going to be able to come in earlier than that. So, I guess we can be on break again for, this one might be 20 minutes if Ann is on time and not early. So, okay. Welcome back, everybody. It's 11:29, and we're here with our public defender, Ann Taylor, and we're going to talk about the FY24 budget. And if you would start off with the fact who is actually funding you now and where we're going to go in the near future.
This is my last budget
Oh,
session.
sure.
This is the public defender's last budget session with the county, and the state will be taking over fully in operations before we get to our next year, budget year. My understanding is that the county can get reimbursed because of the limit on the levies for the county for this year's public defense funding. So that's one of the things that I think that the county ought to be aware of, and I'm not sure how this works with the state, is once we change to state employees, unless the state buys the vacation portion for each county employee, the county might be in a position to pay out all of the vacation dollars for people that have accrued vacation time. And sick hours, if you've been there over 5 years, there's the graduated transfer of funds into the VEBA. So I think the county should be thinking about that and maybe help participate with state negotiations. My hope is that employees will transfer with a sick bank and a vacation bank, so there's continuity. But I wanted to bring that up because that's just a reality. If the state won't do it, the county will need to be prepared to pay out accrued vacation time for every person in my department.
So that's saying that you've been a public defender for 20 years and you're going to go to the state and start over earning sick and vacation?
I plan to ask to be on the transition team. That has been something that I've tried to bring up during the formation of the new statute.
Right.
That's a really big deal. If people that have been dedicated to public defense are to go in flat and be brand new employees in the system equal with somebody who graduated from law school this year, we will lose the experienced people. I hope that whoever the state public defender turns out to be appreciates that and wants to work something out with the county to buy vacation time and sick time. It's a real fear of mine that there will be mass exodus in public defense if there isn't some provision made. But my only thought to bring it up to you and this board is it's a sizable amount to pay out all in one chunk sum if that's what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So where do we go from here? So right now, though, that the state is funding almost your entire budget. Is that
right? I believe my budget comes from you still, and that the county can get reimbursed by the state. I would not pretend to know how that's going to happen exactly.
Okay. So you still get all the grant funding with the workload and with the compliance?
Yes, that's separate from what the state's supposed to repay the counties right now.
Okay. Okay. All right, so what changes you got?
So in our budget, we did our best to come in flat. There are some categories that we did an increase, and those increases come because things are more expensive than they were even last year. I have something that's highlighted with the account number and the different asks. We have a chart that talks about what we were allotted in 22, 23, and then what we're asking for this year. I can provide that, or I can go through each category, whatever's best.
Do you have a printout for us, or if you don't, that's fine.
I have 2 copies. I have one you can have and one I can read off from, and
it's fine. Just read off of it.
Okay.
And then maybe get it to us later.
I could leave one?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first category is the 8003 printing supplies. This year we're asking for $3,226. Last year the adopted budget was $1,613.
Okay.
The next is 8101 for consultants. This year we're asking for $86,832. Last year's adopted budget was $61,832. 8201 is the operating property lease. We're asking for, man, I can't tell all my zeros, 209,745. Last year was 206,318.
I'm sorry, what was it for this year?
The property lease.
Yeah, what was the first number? I wasn't typing fast enough.
What we're asking for is 209,745.
Okay.
Next is airfare. The ask this year is 12,000. Last year it was 8,000. Next is 8303 lodging. This year we're asking for 8,869. Last year was 7,095. In category 8306 miscellaneous travel expenses. This year we're asking for 1,000. Last year it was 800.
That's the new position.
And we have a new position that we requested for social worker as well.
Okay. So the social worker would just essentially come out from the levy part of it. We're not levying for you anymore, but I'm pretty sure we're getting, it's not just a reimbursement, we're getting sales tax or revenue sharing or something. We're getting something on the top, then whatever that deficit is between the revenue sharing and your workload and the other, I call it compliance, but it's not. It's, what is
the formula grant?
Formula grant. Then that's where the county has to pick up the rest, essentially in fund balance.
I would trust your assessment. The statutes changed a lot.
Right.
This year, and the funding for public defense going forward changed a lot. I am not clear on what will happen.
Sure. Okay. Well, and I wish it looked like you'd be able to hire more people going forward, but that's still kind of a, people aren't going to law school, then they're not graduating, coming to work.
I have the positions open. I have an interview, not next week, but the week after, with a new attorney candidate, so I'm hopeful for that. And we just continue to try to attract quality attorneys that want to come work with us.
Yeah. All right, well, I appreciate that. All right, questions?
No questions.
Okay. So then the only thing, and I'll probably just get with you and Brandy just to see what those actual numbers are, but what the deficit's going to be this year. And that way we just understand with that social worker what the county's obligation will be.
Sounds fair.
Yeah. All right. And then in the past, if the county gives raises, then we pay for that on top of the workload grant. Is that correct?
We requested the additional amount this year. We planned for that in our ask.
Oh, okay. So, but if they don't give it to
If
you,
they don't, then that's how it in the past has
worked.
handled.
We did last year as well. We asked for, I don't think we fully anticipated the raises, but we asked for more than we got to try to offset that. Those are mostly open positions though.
Right, right. And so just to reiterate, I don't know if you've grasped this yet, but she's got county-funded employees and she has workload grant-funded employees. And every time a county employee leaves, she puts her workload grant over there. And so that's the money that's not getting spent, but what it does is it secures the position, so it doesn't matter what the funding does here, she can keep those experienced people. So that's kind of where we're at. So, all right, I guess with nothing else, you're good.
Okay. Copy.
Yep. And I'll make sure everybody gets one. So,
would it be possible?
Yes. What, it's just your grant application, right? Okay. Does Brandy need you there? Right. Yeah, so if you want to talk to Brandy and if she doesn't need you, I don't need you to come, so. Okay. Okay. Well, safe travels. Yeah. Okay, so we are in recess for this meeting until 1:15. So.